Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is going on, everyone? My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's the statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more.
Oh, yes, we do.
You are tuned in to the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely are going to be having some conversations about what we're talking about after the show. So, Pat, where does everybody head on over to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing over to the website, sign up for all the social media accounts, do what you got to do so we can keep those conversations rolling through the weekend, because trust me, one episode is not going to be enough for our main topic today.
No.
What we're going to be leading off with, obviously, has been taking pop culture by storm, so we definitely are going to have a couple days worth to talk about this and really deep dive into everything going on with that. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and all points in between, make sure to sign up for all the ODPH accounts and definitely interact with us. Also, while you're at the website, check out the TeePublic store link. It's always a good time to go pick up some ODPH swag, especially when it's on sale. So definitely head on over there, go get yourself something for the summertime, because obviously it's getting nice out. I know I'm saying summer, but anytime it's around 70 degrees in the Northeast.
Yeah, well, we break out the shorts, we break out the short sleeves, the windows go down, the music goes up.
Yeah, so we have to take advantage of our couple weeks of summer here before the snow starts up again.
Yeah, this is true.
So if you're wondering why, that's why we go get some ODPH swag, and boom, there we're covered. And if you want to support the brand in another way, well, Patreon. Patreon.com/ODPH podcast. One tier, $2 a month. Not that much, and you want to support the brand in that way, we definitely appreciate it. We give you a little bonus content each month. So definitely it's worth the while if you want to support us that way, and we can't say thank you enough for that.
Also, you get a better return on investment with the Patreon than you might have with the solar eclipse this week.
See?
Just saying.
I can't argue with that.
This is true.
That's why I say he is the statistician to the stars.
For those of you who don't know, the solar eclipse up in our neck of the woods, wet fart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Mother Nature.
It was a very big letdown up here.
Yeah.
So that's why I say if you invest in the Patreon, it's a better deal. Pad killing it today with the knowledge, as always. As our good friend Dre Driven says, he is the plug for a reason, because he will fill you with knowledge. Also, while you're at the website, check out the blog section where I always have reviews dropping left and right, especially on New Comic Book Day. The directory, which we are on. How many providers, Pad?
835,732.
I say it once, I say it again. That is why he is the statistician to the stars. Also, check out the classified section. Go support some good friends of ours, such as 3FN Podcast. Great episodes this month. They've been killing it.
Yeah.
They've been having so much going in. Obviously, Rich is coming back from WrestleMania, which you'll hear about on Nerd Initiative's Wrestling Night Live. So you definitely want to catch up on those episodes, and then definitely swing on over to nerdinitiative.com and see what is going on in the home of pop culture positivity. A lot of things happening there, along with many of our other friends there on the classified section. Also, while you're at the website, check out the music section. A lot of our great friends that provide us the music to play here each and every episode are on there. So if you want to get some Brian Wolf and the Howlers in your collection, boom, there you go. How about some Shout Out to Robots, Tom Jolu, Second Suitor, Floodlands. The list goes on and on and on. But basically, if it's anything and everything, it is the ODPH. You can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And if you're using hashtags on social media, why not use the hashtag ODPHpod? Well, there is no other big pop culture moment going on in the land of entertainment than the episode that we are going to be talking about and breaking down from a series that has been on fire since it has returned.
Yep.
The revision of one of the best cartoons of the 90s.
Yeah, it's in that conversation.
Has come back and really lived up to the hype and even exceeded in some points.
Yeah.
And this past week's episode, we have to do a deep dive in about... Pat, what are we going to be talking about this week?
We are talking about episode 5 from the X-Men revival, X-Men 97, the episode titled Remember It.
Yes, indeed. This series, since it has come back, has really connected fans from the 90s animated show and brought them up to speed now, not missing a beat from where the show ended, and really giving fans that have jumped in post-movies a real glimpse into what I consider the golden era of the X-Men comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because during that 80s, 90s period, there was such great storytelling, and it really pushed a lot of envelopes of where you could go.
Right.
Because the X-Men have always known to be different in how they approach their villains, and,
Yep.
and just it's not your average comic. And during that time period, like Chris Claremont, who's writing the X-Men, really took the brand into a lot of interesting places.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing that reflection happen on this show,
Yeah.
and they've come back with some very strong episodes.
They are not pulling punches.
No, they're not. I mean, I think the only one that we talked about last week that was kind of a little bit of a letdown was Motendo / Life Death Part 1.
Yeah.
Just because there's 2 episodes split in one.
Yeah.
But they came back very, very strong with episode 5 entitled Remember It. So if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. Leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm. What we like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about so we don't ruin anything for you if you haven't seen the episode yet. However, we do give you a countdown, and we also put the liner notes, the timestamp where we start going into spoilers. Pat, make sure you're taking care of that. So there is no chance that we can be blamed for spoiling anything for you. We give you that heads up. But after that countdown is on, we deep dive. We hold nothing back, and we give you fair warning. If you got to duck out, watch the episode and jump back into that moment. So that being said, Pat, give me your spoiler-free statement on Remember It, episode 5 of X-Men 97.
This episode is quite honestly one of the best episodes I've ever seen. Not just for X-Men, but of like animation, period. It ranks up there for me with some of the episodes from Star Wars, Clone Wars, Beast Wars, Batman, the animated series, just those seminal episodes that like you think of a series and you go, yeah, if you had to watch one episode, that would be it. Like the Batman, the animated series, I think of the one where I think it was called Almost Got Him. Mm-hmm. And it was all the villains sitting around a poker table telling the story of how they almost caught Batman, but he got out of it in the end. One of the best episodes of the series. This one for me right now, early contention for best episode of the season. It's incredible. It's damn near flawless, and for anyone who hasn't seen the episode yet, don't go on social media, don't go into any hashtags, go into it don't go into the comments on a post on Facebook or, don't go searching down the reels on Instagram or whatever else. Like, don't go looking on Reddit. Just go watch the episode because this is one, you won't have the experience ruined for you completely if you go in knowing some stuff, but it'll definitely take away from the experience to a certain degree. It is absolutely best if you go into this as blind as you can because stuff has been up for the episode in terms of spoilers since I personally watched the episode at like 7 or 7:15 this morning Eastern. The spoilers were already up online. I looked and I checked a couple hashtags just to see if stuff was full-fledged. Stuff was there. So fair warning to those of you who haven't seen the episode yet. Do yourself a favor. Pause the episode right now. Go watch the episode and then come back because it is incredible.
Best episode of the season thus far might be the episode of the year.
Uh-huh.
And I will say it's probably one of the best animated shows I've seen.
Yeah.
In a lifetime. I think for any X-Men fan, you came in with this, you had a roller coaster of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a lot of different elements at play.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending is going to hit because the one thing is the writing team made sure that you were emotionally invested.
And especially, for a certain generation, especially my generation, this episode hits because this is how we were introduced. My generation was introduced to the X-Men. I was not fortunate enough to grow up within walking distance of a comic shop. So I couldn't walk. There were comic shops in my area, but to get to any of them, I would have needed my parents to drive me, and that wasn't going to happen. So my first experience, and I know a lot of my friends' first experiences with the X-Men, was this cartoon. And just the love letter and the care they've done with these characters that feel like friends to me in a way. You know, Wolverine feels like the friend that you know you're not exactly close with, but like, hey, if he's sitting there at lunch, you can sit next to him. You know, that just everything about this has been a win.
Yeah, they've definitely taken the time to have you get invested in, especially if you've grown up watching that cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
You know these characters very well. And to see what is happening now, it combines a lot with that classic era of X-Men storytelling.
Yep.
And you are seeing a good mix of themes that are involved in the current comics today.
Uh-huh.
Especially one element that we'll dive into.
Yes.
But I think for anybody that is just been on board with the Krakoan era currently in the comics,
right,
there's something to connect with you there.
Oh, yeah.
If it's somebody that's just watched with the cartoon, there's something to connect with you there. If it's somebody that read the Claremont run in the 80s and early 90s, there's something for you there.
Uh-huh.
So with all that said, I thought they pulled this off flawlessly.
I do too.
I think that they really took their time to give fans something to really sink their teeth into.
Right.
And when that ending hits, it's going to just leave that impression on you that when they come back to this story, you know, the weight on this is going to be haunting, and it's unfortunately it's going to overshadow next week's episode.
It's a lot of implications.
Yeah, because they're going to take a detour to go back to a different story.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, fans are buzzing about, rightfully so.
Oh yeah.
And if you watch one episode of the series thus far, make it this one. You can jump in a little cold.
Yeah.
But you'll be fine and you can catch up easily. Highest possible recommendation. But that being said, we have to dive into the spoilers here. So, Pad, in 3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Like I said, this episode was some of the best storytelling I've seen, hands down. It was flawless. It pulled at my emotions. It was a roller coaster ride, as you alluded to. And it was one that was executed just magnificently. There's not a whole lot I can really gripe or complain about. I know last week I said I'm going to give it one more week of starting with this first, but if it's another stinker, you know, I'm going to switch up the watch order and watch Bad Batch before this. That counter's back down to 0. You know, I'm sticking with this first thing I watch on a Wednesday morning, because this was just incredible from start to finish.
This was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I think for the elements that they combined, which they've taken a little bit from the Krakoan era and the Hellfire Gala. They've taken the classic Rogue Magneto storyline from the Savage Land, and they teased a little bit about that this year, but but we've got a little more clarity about that. Plus, also the fallout from Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers coming to more of a boil. So when you combine all of these elements in place and then throw in the ending we got, this is why we get connected as fans to these shows.
Yeah.
And for animation, I think this serves the X-Men better than it does live action, because you're allowed to have multiple characters in. And where this is going to go, it's unfortunate that next week we're going to take a break to go back to Storm Story, even though the Storm Story is great.
Oh yeah, it's crucial to the season.
It's very crucial to the season because I think I know where we're going.
Right.
And it's to see them pull it off, it's going to be tricky, but they can do it. But how this is all going to be connected up is going to be extremely interesting.
Right, and I know some people are, I don't want to say griping, but they're kind of wondering, you know, why didn't they save what happens in this episode for the finale? And I think that makes sense to a certain degree, but it also feels simple and predictable. That, like, if you think about great television and great episodes, you know, a lot of them, and you can think of a number of them that end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And end with that, oh my God, what the hell's going to happen? The one I keep going back to, you know, season 1 of Smallville, tornadoes hit the town. You know, the one ends up hitting the Luthor mansion, and you've got Lex's father pinned under the pillar column thing in the one room. You know, can't get up, and he's got the other part of it with the really sharp pointed wooden end pointing like less than a foot away from his face. And Lex is standing there with this evil look on his face, contemplating, do I want to let him live or do I want to let him die?
Yeah.
And it cuts to black. And that was in like May. And I had to sit there and wait until September to figure out what the fuck happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that something like that, what happens with this episode is predictable. I'm glad they went about it this way because this almost feels more gut-wrenching than if they did it at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could sit there and I could like reconcile with, okay, this sucks, but we know at some point whenever they announce season 2, because we know they're well into working on season 3 from what the reports have said last week.
Yeah.
You know, we know, okay, at some point we're going to get the resolution to this story. We know something's going to happen, you know, within the next year or so. This sucks because we know there's more coming and we don't know what it's going to entail or what's going to happen. They don't have to get to the end of the season and give us, you know, kind of a bookend to what happened here. They can leave it open-ended if they want to. This is, you know, twisting the old knife, as the saying goes.
Yeah, well, I think this would have been perfect for a mid-season finale, and they took some time off. I know, but listen, as a greedy fan, I don't want to even think that would be an option.
No.
I thought what they did here is, with the closing, they really left it in a perfect cliffhanger moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then where we're eventually coming back to that, we have to remember we've only got 5 more episodes.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be taking a break and then coming back for another season.
Mm-hmm.
So they are going to have to get some groundwork done, especially with the final 3 episodes being a 3-part story.
Yep.
So there's a lot of moving parts happening here. But the one that they kind of have been hinting at a little bit is Life After Xavier.
Right.
And that's where this opens up because Trish Tilby is doing an expose on the X-Men.
Right, because you've now got kind of a follow-up to the storyline from, what was it, episode 2, I think is what it was, where after the whole shenanigans hoopla at the United Nations, you know, the mutant country of Genosha was going to be formally accepted into the United Nation as a nation country or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
So that day is happening today as the episode plays out. So obviously with, you know, the way tensions have gone over the course of this series and the prequel series, you know, or the previous series, the original X-Men series, you know, tensions are obviously strained and have been for a few years. So obviously with it being in the news and people warming up to it, hey, now's a good time to do a little bit of a peel behind the curtains. Let's show the people, you know, who these people are and maybe put some names to, or some faces to names.
Yeah. So they are trying to show the lighter side of the campus, right. I should say.
Right.
And it is kind of met with some mixed results.
Yeah.
Because obviously Cyclops is still reeling from the fact he had to give his son up.
He's dealing with a lot.
Mm-hmm. Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor is still a question mark that we think has been answered, but not.
Yeah.
Jean is still dealing with a lot of the after effects.
She's still sorting through which emotions are hers,
right,
and memories.
Right, because it's still very unclear about what is going on with her. Even to the point where she has a romantic moment quickly with Wolverine, which has been something that they've teased in the comics and show for quite some time.
Yep.
So when that happens, and then even Wolverine just brushes it off and says...
It was a mental slip in judgment.
Yeah, so he even just disregards it, even though that will be trust me, that will be a plot point coming back later.
Yeah, it will.
No chance they're letting that one go.
Fists are going to fly.
Mm-hmm. So as the different members are talking with Trish, it does become apparent that obviously mutants are trying to get a good PR swing.
Mm-hmm.
And when this happening, we see that Magneto, Gambit, and Rogue head back to Genosha.
Mm-hmm.
So this is obviously after the UN has accepted them. So there is this little interesting plot point happening here.
Yep.
Where Rogue is following Magneto, Gambit is tagging along.
Because he don't trust him.
Right. So they get to Genosha, and then this is where you see this utopia happening.
Yeah.
Much like Krakoa in the comics now. But obviously it's very different stories.
Mm-hmm.
So we do see a plethora of cameos in this, which, I mean, you have everybody from Pixie to Archangel and Banshee, Moira McTaggart at one point.
Archangel. That was cool.
Archangel is there, which, I mean, I'm always a big fan of Archangel. Not Angel necessarily, but, but I think way better storyline going on there. We do see Exodus, which is a very, very interesting character if you know Magneto and this time period.
Mm-hmm.
And we do see probably the most popular one of all, which, I mean, Dazzler is up there too, we have to remember.
Yeah.
But we do see Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Who comes in, and it's amazing to see him back.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, he's a classic X-Men.
Yep.
And, to see him come in and just have the interactions that he does, he's definitely somebody that breaks up the pace a little bit, which is always key because with what is going on, you need that, I don't want to say comedic relief, but he's somebody that is just a very positive person.
Yeah.
And Adrian Holt, who voices Nightcrawler, did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he did.
Because he's just kind of playing into everybody here as well, especially with Gambit, who is not happy with the events that are going on.
He knows. He's got a good I won't say he knows. He's got a good feeling on what's going on. It's just nobody's telling him yet.
Yeah, because Rogue is sitting here just being extremely happy.
Yeah.
That you're seeing this utopian mutant safe haven. And you're seeing the Morlocks are there too. You're just seeing people are celebrating being mutants.
Yeah.
Like I say, even though they have that interesting dance sequence.
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah, which, I mean, it just goes to celebrate, like, just they're happy to be there. I mean, seeing Jamie Madrox go multiple on here.
Yeah.
That was a little bit interesting. And, it plays into what Genosha is supposed to be. So this is the place where Magneto has always dreamed, much like we say with Krakoa in the comics now. So we do get introduced to the Genosian Council. So this is where Val Cooper, who is a liaison for the UN, is in place here too. And we do see a familiar face already that is now on the council as well. And Pat, who is that?
That would be Madeline Pryor, a.k.a. Clone Jean.
Yes. So seeing how she is there, it does bring up a lot of questions of what's going on, because last time we saw her, she was going to forge her own path.
Yep.
And now she's part of the Genosian Council, which is interesting to see, just the fast turnaround. But it all goes into play with what is getting set up here, because they have this meeting about who is going to run the Genosian Council, and sure enough, the vote is for Magneto himself.
Yep.
So he does agree. But there is a catch.
He's got one condition.
And what is that condition, Pat?
Rogue serves alongside him.
Yeah. So this is a very, very surprise move that happens. And Rogue is caught off guard a little bit.
Very much so.
Yeah, because this was not part of the plan. Like, was this the whole thing about him coming back to the X-Mansion? And, is his intentions, is he really the true heir to Charles Xavier's estate? Like, that's something I thought of, too. Like, is this all set up for what he's trying to do with Genosha? But we do see a little break in the action, so to speak. And we do see that Rogue catches up with Gambit about her past with Magneto. And like I say, they do tie in a lot from the comics with this as well. And to see how this all plays out, this is also the point where Rogue and Gambit, quote unquote, break up.
Yep.
And it is a very emotional scene.
Yep.
I know a lot of fans were talking about this one.
Yep.
But I thought it made sense for where the story was going.
Yeah.
Because during this whole celebration, we now go to a certain gala. And we do see a lot of familiar faces here.
There's a lot of brimstone with this gala. A lot of hellfire.
And yeah, because sure enough, we do get a Hellfire Gala.
They don't name it, but if you look at the people who were there, pretty easy to figure out.
Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw.
Yep. So
we do see a lot of the Hellfire Gala notables that we've seen in the comics, obviously, throughout the year. They're there. So this is a party to celebrate. Even the music is throwing back to 1997 Ace of Base.
Yeah.
Which I say, which I can't remember if it was during this or the dance sequence with Exodus and Maddox and all them. But I do love how they kept the music to the 90s.
Yep.
So, and that is very much 97 too, if you know about that time period of pop music. So we do see the celebration is happening. Rogue makes a dramatic appearance, much to Gambit's dislike, who's at the bar with Madeline Pryor.
The other thing too is Magneto and the other members of the Genosian Council, the Hellfire Gala, are having a talk with the representative from the UN. And at this point, the UN has found out that Magneto is going to be the leader of the of Genosha. It would be the representative of the UN, whatever it is. And the UN rep is less than thrilled because, well, he's a terrorist or a former terrorist or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
And that's when they bring up, well, he did ask, Rogue to be a participant alongside him on this council. And they're like, oh, well, what did Rogue say? And before they can get the answer out, she comes walking in the room, much to everyone's shock and Gambit's dismay.
Yeah, because they have an intimate moment there on the dance floor, but then she ultimately turns him down. Now, this is after Gambit walks away.
Yes.
So we have to keep that in mind. So after Rogue turns Magneto down, this is where the episode really picks up some steam. Because, like I say, we did have the emotional moments, even much with Madeline prior to, who did have a moment where it is turned out that she has been telepathically connecting with Scott Summers, which is causing a lot of rift between Scott and Jean.
Yeah, they're growing distant between Scott and Jean.
Which did lead to an emotional outburst in front of Tish Tilby on the show from Scott Summers.
Yeah.
So, like I say, he's not exactly handling things well right now.
No.
But Madeline is trying to accept what is happening on here. So while she's outside getting some air, so to speak, we get a visitor that starts running through the streets of Genosha, telling everybody to get inside and run.
Yep.
Pad, who is that?
Cable.
Yes. The one and only Nathan Summers from the future, who is warning that something is coming.
But he ain't saying what.
He's not saying what or who, but he is trying to get everybody to safety as quick as he can. And this also ties back into a little thing they used to do in the 90s. I don't think they've done it too much lately.
Right.
Obviously, if I'm wrong about this, hashtag ODPH pod it. He does his little time slips because he used to do much more time traveling than he's done recently.
Sure.
So, but it's always been like, in certain cases, he's only had a limited amount of time he had to move.
Right.
So that does come into play because when he catches up to Madeline Pryor, they do have this moment where she recognizes he's Nathan.
Well, and this is after he's warned her, like, you need to get everyone out of here. Something's coming and it's going to kill you all. They're like, you don't have any time. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, no, listen, there's no time. You just need to go. And the shot then cuts to his eye, just his one singular eye, where she sees the color and she puts two and two together and she goes, oh my God, you're okay.
Yeah. And then he even says, too, he's like, I'm sorry, Mom, as he fades away. He does say he is coming, though.
Yeah.
So this turns out to be the kickstart for an attack on Genosha.
Yep.
So we do see a lot of the notable characters that were placed throughout the Morlocks, Archangel, Banshee. Yeah. We do see them now on the defensive as a wild sentinel appears.
Yeah.
So this threw me off for a little bit because I'm so used to the Tri-Sentinels.
Right.
But this one is actually from the Grant Morrison era of X-Men.
Oh, okay.
So I had to do a little research on that because I do know some of Grant's stuff with X-Men, but
you're not super well versed.
No, I'm not. I'll be honest about that. Like I say, his stuff I usually like a lot of the beginning of it, but the ending stuff, it just really throws me off a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm not. This is not a bash. This is just my personal opinion of it. Like I do like his stuff.
Yeah.
But I just say his X-Men stuff I'm catching up on.
Okay.
So we do see the Wild Sentinel is going through Genosha and just tearing it apart.
Yeah.
Killing everybody in sight.
Yeah.
So we are seeing that Sentinels are now attacking. Rogue and Gambit are trying to do what they can to stop the attack.
Well, yeah, and at some point, one of the people who's there is like, oh, why would the X-Men protect us? They don't like us. All of a sudden, the theme music hits. In comes Gambit with his staff.
Yeah.
Saving the day in an all-white suit.
Because it was the plan all along. Yeah. Gambit had to go do it. Magneto was saying, I'll fight him off and do what he can. Because he is sitting there. And this is where I thought we had a really interesting moment with his character.
Uh-huh.
Because this is where he would normally turn into the evil Magneto, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that he was aware the world was watching him.
Yeah.
And I think that he was trying his best not to completely go a little, I don't want to say crazy, but I think he was trying to keep his emotions in check.
Yeah.
Because knowing that, okay, we have our own nation that's recognized by the UN.
Right.
I don't want to do anything to jeopardize it. So he was trying his best to kind of balance his rage.
Right. Well, and I think it's ultimately, though their methods differed, he and Charles ultimately had the same end goal. Mm-hmm. They wanted the betterment for mutant society, and they all wanted to just be left alone and live in coexistence.
Yeah.
It was messy, but they got there in the end, and I think Magneto's realized that and realized, okay, the way I went about things clearly wasn't the best way to do this. And it's like he said in the UN trial, I had good intentions. I did what I did for my own people, but, I had to do some stuff to stick up for him.
Yeah.
And I think he's realized he's finally at that point where, because there's like 300, 400 foot statues of him and Xavier, like near the port of this island. He's realized, like, hey, we've achieved the goal.
Yeah.
The mutants have their own society where if they want to, we're not going to force them, free will and all that. But like, if they want to come and live here and not have to worry about people saying stuff and calling them a freak and calling them a mutie and calling them an abomination and whatever other colorful derogatory phrase you can think of, they can do that. That they can just, because we see it when they first arrive on the island. It's just, mutants being themselves.
Yeah.
Just living their lives, having fun, going about their day. There's one dude we saw, we didn't mention it because it wasn't worth mentioning, but there's one dude towards the beginning of the episode on the island. What was he, like, working a fruit stand? He's just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
So he's achieved the goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I thought they did very right with this is they're trying to establish, like, the happiness of the mutants. Especially they tied in a lot of more new mutants, not the actual group, but like I say, when you see Glob or Pixie, that were very, well known for a lot of new readers, so to speak.
Right.
Like I say, when you have that connection and you're trying to establish, like, hey, this is what, this is a whole new era for X-Men.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing those characters show up here, it does mean a lot too, especially with how quickly everything is going sideways, and you're seeing that Magneto is doing everything he can to fight him off. So we're seeing a lot of great action sequences here, especially with Gambit, like you alluded to. I think he was the all-star of this.
Agreed.
Because I want to say, once there's that scene underground with the Morlocks and he has to come in and save him with the X-Men music hits.
Yep.
Like, it's perfect.
Yep.
It plays out, so well. So it is interesting to see how this is all shaping up, because he does eventually lead everybody to somewhat safety.
Yep.
But it's also safety around Magneto, because he's trying his best to stop this Sentinel, which he can't do.
He's not holding anything back, and he can't stop it.
No. And especially, things are bad, too, because this is when a cameo happens. That unless you were really staring at it, you did not see this person show up.
I caught it, but I didn't recognize it was a cameo, and I didn't catch it till somebody pointed it out to me.
And who is that cameo?
That would be the Watcher.
Yeah. Uatu shows up.
Yeah.
And if you know anything
Blink and you miss it moment.
But if you know anything about the Marvel Comics universe,
if
Uatu shows up, that means it is an endgame moment.
Ish is going down.
And especially with how the Wild Sentinel is running crazy, too.
Yeah.
That is the big key point here, is Magneto can't stop it. And you're even seeing Rogue is struggling to stop it.
Yeah.
So as they're trying to do what they can, it's just not happening.
And at one point, Magneto really goes to cut loose, and that's when you hear the Sentinel go, Omega level threat detected.
Yeah. So it knows what it's keying in on. And especially if you take out an Omega level mutant, you've more or less defeated everybody.
Yeah. Well, and so the Sentinel, and it's got other Sentinels in the area, are just destroying the island without regard. At one point, some people get killed, and Magneto goes, enough is enough. And he picks up, I don't know if it was like a tram car or a subway car, but it was something like that, and starts using it like a whip.
Yeah.
And that was an awesome sequence.
Yeah, no, that definitely was an amazing sequence as he's fighting as he can.
Because, what is it? He says like enough is enough or something like that.
Oh, yeah, because he's just getting more and more frustrated that for him being an Omega level mutant, he can't stop it.
And he's got to be frustrated too, because like I said, the goal is there. The mutants finally have their own space where they can live and let live. That the UN, the governing body of the planet, almost or however many countries are a part of, they're recognized. They've finally got that status that, like, hey, you are a thing. And somebody, we don't know who, somebody has sent this Sentinel there and is just wiping the place out.
Yeah. So we're seeing this just massive brawl throughout Genosha, mass casualties left and right. We do see Magneto winds up pulling a force field around the Morlocks best he can.
Yep.
And even he gets Rogue and Gambit to safety, so to speak, as he ties a steel bar around them. And he more or less gets a bunker around them of metal.
Well, and Rogue is trying to get back to him, and Gambit's trying to talk sense into her, and because there's this look of pain on Magneto's face, and Gambit basically tells her, like, no, listen, you're not going to be able to get to him. He's giving us time to escape.
Yeah.
And the camera then cuts into the force field, and he's with the Morlock, and he looks at the Morlock, and he says in German, because subtitles popped up.
Yeah.
I did not have subtitles turned on, but the subtitles popped up, and what did it say? Do not be afraid?
Yeah.
He said, do not be afraid in German.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's just an emotional scene as he is just sitting there trying to save everybody he can.
Yeah.
And this goes back to that emotional sequence of Rogue and Gambit's history, Rogue and Magneto's history.
Yeah.
Because you see that history of their relationship and how it went down. And like I say, it's a little Easter egg they put in there.
Yeah.
But it pays off here because you're seeing Rogue's reaction to it. So while Magneto is stopped, you see that Gambit takes it upon himself to go right after the Sentinel because Rogue is being stopped.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and more or less, I don't know if he planned on this, but he tries going attacking the Wild Sentinel head on. And he winds up getting impaled.
Yeah. I don't think he planned it. I think it was just one of those moments that as the battle unfolded, it kind of presented itself in such a way, and he went, oh, well, that's unfortunate but convenient.
So as he's impaled in the side, like I say, I don't think he was planning on like sacrificing himself.
He's a wild dude, and he's a wild card at points, but I don't think he's that much of a wild card.
Well, I think that he was trying to get close enough to inject his staff in there.
I agree with that, but I don't think getting impaled was on the plan.
Yeah, no, but I think just like getting himself like wrapped around, I don't think that's what I'm trying to go with. I think he was expecting to get wrapped around.
Yes.
Not impaled with that.
Yes.
But meanwhile, he's hit in the side.
Yep.
So what does he do? And this is one of the best sequence ever. Is like he gives his farewell speech, and he's just as he's sitting there, knowing that it's not going to go, he's just like, basically, remember me.
Yeah.
As the one who took you out. So he winds up charging up the cable.
Yep. Which is being held by the Sentinel.
Yep. And winds up blowing up the Wild Sentinel. And then, unfortunately, he falls down to the ground. Rogue is consoling him, and she literally says a line that drops the mic on everything. I can't feel you.
And this is all the meanwhile it cuts back to, very briefly, back at the X-Men mansion. And they're all gathered around a television, and there's a news report going on. And the news reporter is giving the warning, like, "Hey, listen, we normally wouldn't show this, but given the current events going on, we have to, viewer discretion is advised." And they're showing the damage and the carnage that's happened.
Yeah, and that's how it ends. So, like we say, there's a lot of elements at play here.
But the main points: Magneto's dead, and so's Gambit.
Yeah, the blast just encompasses Magneto. We don't see what happens. We don't see his body.
Right.
So we have to remember that.
Right.
But we do see Gambit's. And as of right now, he is gone. So we have to kind of wait and see where things play out. Now, I have a couple theories I can go into.
Okay.
So one, who the big bad is, I still think it's Apocalypse.
Okay.
And I know it's going to be kind of an interesting play here, but...
Could be.
Well, if he's not technically the bad, because the only one that could be in the comics is Cameron Hodge, but that's a stretch. That's a big stretch. But for somebody that has access to a Sentinel of that size, they might try borrowing from the comics now and make it Nimrod.
Yeah, it could be.
Which would make some sense.
Yeah,
but
could be.
The only reason I'm bringing up Apocalypse is obviously the ties in with Cable at this time.
Right.
We have to keep that in consideration. Also, if they wanted to bring Gambit back from the dead, Apocalypse can do it because there was a brief moment in time where Gambit was the Horseman of Death.
That is true.
So they could go that route.
I don't think they ever did the Horseman in the original cartoon.
I think they did, but it's brief.
Yeah.
It was brief, but because I think that's how they brought Archangel back.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have done it.
Yeah.
But with Apocalypse, he's always had multiple people.
Yeah, it's never the same 4.
Yeah.
It's like Ric Flair's 4 Horsemen. There's always a rotating cast.
Exactly. And especially if they wanted to do Gambit as Death,
Yeah,
that could be interesting for the show. Like
that'd be a twist of the knife if, like, let's just say it's the final shot of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
They think they've won the battle, whatever it is, and then you just see Apocalypse appear in the sky.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they've had interactions with him before. They fought him they're like, oh shit, Apocalypse is back. And the other 3 horsemen show up and they're like, oh my gosh, and it's recognizable, known characters to this universe so that we, the viewer, can go, oh my God, it's these 3.
Yeah.
And then the last one, and they're like, and you could have a line from Beast like, oh wait, that's only 3. There's always 4. Who's the 4th? And then out of nowhere, like, time stream, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, Gambit comes in. Cut to Rogue, cut to black.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be perfect and I think that's where they're going with it.
Could be.
So that's why I say he's going to be involved some way or another.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily. I can't see him just trying to kill everybody on Genosha though.
Right.
That's the only thing that I'm
because at least at this point there are implications to death because this isn't the comics. Krakoa isn't a thing in this universe that we know of.
Right.
So they can't just go, oh hey, whoops, you're dead. Let's just bring you back.
Yeah, so the 5 mutants involved with Resurrection and the Krakoan protocols. Yeah, we haven't even gone that route.
Yeah, that's not even a thing.
No, I think the only ways that you're going to bring everybody back, and especially the one character I saw in the show, is Exodus. Mm-hmm. And if you know anything about him, Fabian Cortez, there are acolytes to Magneto.
Yep.
And especially with the Magneto was right signs that were around Genosha. Like I say, his castle, let's be honest, it was a castle. Mm-hmm. And especially the statues of him and Xavier that were in the crowd. Like, we didn't spend a lot of time even delving into it because it's an Easter egg for something later. Mm-hmm. But it's noteworthy because seeing that and then seeing the acolytes slowly appear in this episode.
Yeah.
That's how I think they're bringing Magneto back.
Could be.
And then that will lead into some very interesting stories should they go that route. Because the first time we ever saw the Acolytes was around that Jim Lee, Chris Claremont era when they restarted X-Men and it was X-Men #1.
Right.
So that could happen. And I think we might see a version of that. But it's too hard to say about who the big bad is going to be. Just knowing that next episode we go to Storm's finale with the adversary and life death.
Presumably she'll get her powers back.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's a lock. But considering who the adversary is and involving the Fall of the Mutant storyline.
Yeah, I mean, well, the other thing too we also have to remember is Sinister's lurking in the background.
Yeah, he is.
I'm not saying he's the big bad, but we can't leave that chess piece unforgotten.
Well, I mean, if you read the comics now, I mean, he does play a part with Orcus.
Yeah.
So it could be.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, if you want me to do a percentage on it, I'll say this. I will give him a 35% chance right now.
If Orcus shows up on the show.
Oh, if Orcus shows up, yeah, it's a 100%.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, if they decide to go with Orcus as, like, the main villain and is the one sending the Sentinels after them, given the success of the X-Men comics in the last, however many years since they did the relaunch, I guess you could say, I'd see it on screen like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't be something out of left field like, oh, my God, I can't believe they chose that character. That's such a left field choice. Like, I'd see it and I'd go, yeah, that makes sense.
It would make sense, but I think they would have done Orcus at the episode 1. That's where I think to give more of a payoff.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're relying too much on everybody knowing the comics right now. And, and even though the comics are doing very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think everybody knows Orcus if you went up to the comic shops and just said it as like a household name.
Right.
So that's where I say I think they could dabble around with that. I know another name that was thrown around was Cassandra Nova. I will say that's a wild card. That's a leap. Mm-hmm. If she showed up, I mean, obviously, if you know about her history in Genosha, that it is a possibility.
Yeah.
So there is a couple different ways to go, like I say, but that's the fun part of like trying to watch the show because we're so invested in these characters. That to see how their stories are going to play out, like this is going to be some real fun stuff.
The other thing too we can't rule out is they did say some point in these first 5 episodes that it does sound like all of the other animated shows they did during this time period, the Spider-Mans and whatnot, are in the same universe. So we can't rule out it being a surprise cameo from somebody else in one of the other cartoons.
Yeah, but like if it was going to be like a Doctor Doom,
sure.
Yeah, like I mean maybe.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think we are going to get a cameo of some sort.
Dude, if we get Spider-Man from that cartoon with the original voice actor, oh my God.
I think we will.
Oh my God.
I think with the last 3 episodes being a 3-part story, I think we are going to get a cameo here
and historically, when they do multi-part stories over the course of, a couple episodes, they're not slouches.
No.
They're usually real good episodes.
No, and especially the title being Tolerance is Extinction.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they can go a couple different routes with this. I mean, if they want to try borrowing a little bit from the Fall of the Mutant storyline, they could.
They could.
If they want to go extinction of agenda, they could do that, which, I mean, I think they're going to do. I just think if they haven't introduced Cameron Hodge by now, I think that they're going to have to recast and do somebody there. So like I say, I don't necessarily know how they're going to play that out, or if it's going to be Apocalypse, which is not out of the realm of thought, just based off who's involved.
Right.
Or, I mean, we could even think we're dealing with time travel, especially with one Cable.
Yeah.
We might have maybe an alternate version of Charles Xavier.
Ooh, that could be.
I mean, just YPAD?
Reasons.
But still, it could happen. So many different ways to go, but I mean, Pat, let's kind of wrap this up. I mean, final thoughts on this episode.
Absolutely incredible episode. One that definitely, if you haven't seen the series, but you're familiar with the characters, definitely give it a watch, because like you alluded to, Ken, they give you enough in the previously on segment that it's enough to go on, and then if you want to go back and check out the other first 4 episodes, you're definitely, welcome to do so. But it is incredible from start to finish and worth a rewatch.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the best episodes you're going to watch animated by Marvel ever. I think they really captured the emotions of the characters involved, and especially if you've been watching, depending on where you jump in, whether it's the comics or the cartoon, you're invested.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing that moment of heartbreak with Rogue and Magneto play out, and Gambit too, and seeing that triangle just get absolutely destroyed here, and seeing the valiant efforts of Gambit and Magneto to stop the Wild Sentinel, like, it is a moment that just keeps building and building, and until you get that end result where Gambit's lying in Rogue's arms.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't feel you. And just that moment, and it's a cold ending. It's perfect.
Yeah. The other thing, to your point with Xavier, he is going to show up at some point. Because we know the character has been cast and the actor playing him has been announced. It's Ross Marquand.
Yeah.
Of course, from Walking Dead fame. He also did the voice of Red Skull in Avengers Endgame. So at some point he's going to show up, but just in what form? We don't know.
No, I'm going to tell you, he's going to come in from the Shi'ar universe.
Ooh.
No, we're doing Shi'ar. They've had too much of Lilandra in the...
That's true. She's shown up in like 3 straight openers.
Yeah, they're not skipping that he's been in space healing.
Same reason that, again, Phoenix was in the open of this one again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think they're going to try dabbling in the Phoenix Force for this. I could be wrong, though.
You never know.
Because the whole thing is with Tolerance's Extinction, there's so many different ways to go with that.
First 3 episodes, wasn't there. Last 2, was there.
Yeah, so they do have a lot of wiggle room to do that.
Sure.
So it just depends on what they want to do. But the thing is, they've done no wrong thus far.
Absolutely.
So we just have to keep that in mind as this show progresses forward. And then, I mean, once we go from there, it's going to be literally anybody's guess. But that's the beauty of watching this, folks. So we'll definitely have some more to talk about with that. So in the meantime, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts on arguably the best episode of the X-Men animated series thus far? Remember it, seasons 1, episode 5 of X-Men 97. Let us have that discussion on social media. Remember, spoiler free for 72 hours since it's Wednesday. So definitely on Friday we can start dabbling a little more into the spoiler talk, but late night because it's got to be full 72 hours. So hit us up, let us know. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And we have to talk about another series on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Making a lot of noise, going into that final stretch, and business is picking up, as good old JR would say in the WWE days. Pad, what are we going to be talking about?
Season 3, Episode 12 of Star Wars The Bad Batch, and the episode entitled Juggernaut.
That's right. So, much like last segment, we're going to go spoiler-free, give our countdown, and then spoiler talk commences. So, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on the episode.
Episode was good. You know, a little bit of a setup for these last few episodes because, as we know with the season, the whole kind of end goal is, well, we got to get to Tantus. Got to get to Tantus. You know, and this episode's about finding out how the hell we're going to get there. You know, and it's the setup for the final 3 episodes and the final battle because, you know, the episode titles are already out. You know, next week's is titled Into the Breach. Then you've got Flash Strike. And then lastly is The Cavalry Has Arrived. So it sounds like next 3 weeks are going to be, you know, the real, oh my God, you know, craziness battle stuff. But this one, good setup for the final plunge.
The calm before the storm.
Agreed.
That's the easiest way to describe this. Solid episode, a lot of building.
Yes.
So going into that final stretch, knowing that, it made perfect sense. Very good episode to watch, but don't expect anything too earth-shattering.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. But like with anything that is involving this universe, nothing is really considered just filler.
About the end goal and the journey to get there.
So let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. Pad, talk to me.
Good episode. I dug the action sequences. It was a lot of fun, a lot of craziness. I wasn't expecting as much action and adventure as we got in this episode, but hey, you know what? I was here for it.
It did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
Like I say, I was very happy. We do have a name now for the clone assassin, CX2.
Yep.
And obviously with Omega in the possession of the Empire.
Sacrificing herself, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that her brothers, you know, family members, whatever you want to call them, the Bad Batch, you know, Clone Squad, 99 or whatever they are, can survive.
Yeah. So this is where CX2 and Omega return to Tantus. So Omega gets tested because, well, what is the significance of Omega?
Omega is significant to what degree? We're not really sure, but is significant in midi-chlorians, a.k.a. the ability to use the Force. And the project that's being worked on Tantus ties into Project Necromancer. What is Project Necromancer, you might ask? Project Necromancer is the project, for lack of a better word, the Empire is working to give Emperor Palpatine a clone body. Because the one thing through old canon and new canon that's been kind of established is using the dark side, especially a lot, as Palpatine has done over the years, a little bit of a drain on the body. You know, really shortens the life expectancy, as it were. And as a dude who wants to be immortal and live forever and rule over everyone until the end of time, he's got to come up with some ways to do that. And one of the ways is, well, partly cloning his body.
Yeah. It's Star Wars science, folks.
Yep.
We just roll with it.
Yep.
So this is where Omega gets tested. The count is up to par.
It's high enough.
Yeah, so she is now being held with everybody else for Project Necromancer. And obviously, a couple episodes ago, we kind of saw what happens.
Yeah.
So time is at the essence.
Yeah.
So the Bad Batch has to find a way to track down Omega. And we do get a little bit of a lead because we weren't sure exactly how they were going to do this. But Crosshair, of all people, has an idea.
Yeah.
So he brings it up to Wrecker and Hunter.
Well, they're trying to figure out, you know, we got to get to Tantus. Well, we don't know where Tantus is. Nobody knows where Tantus is. And that's when Crosshair's like, well, I do know a guy.
Yeah.
Wait, well, how long have you known this? Well, since I was back working for the Empire. Why didn't you say this sooner? Well, because I really didn't want to go back there and I was hoping to avoid it at all costs.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't fault him on this one. So they have to go track down Rampart. Who, well,
boy,
is
he done some bad things.
detained. On an Imperial labor camp on the planet Erebus. So the gang decides, well, we're going to have to go free him.
First, they got to figure out how to get there because in the skirmish of last week's episode, their ship is gone. Luckily, conveniently, Fee shows up and goes, "Hey, guys, how are you?" And they're like, "How the fuck did you get here?"
Yeah.
Like, the half an Imperial squadron was here. Like, she's like, "Oh, I just did X, Y, and Z and slipped through." Wait a minute, you're here. That means you have a ship. Cool. We need to borrow it and go on a mission. And she's like, "No, you're not going." Well, why not? Because I'm coming with you.
Yep. So, with a little extra help, they wind up going into Erebus. And, well, they track down Rampart, who's on a transport vehicle. And in typical clone fashion,
About as much subtlety as a train barreling through a stained glass window.
yep, they wind up getting on there and wind up taking off with Rampart, who is not exactly the happiest to see them.
No, because he recognized the crosshair, and he's basically like, ah, shit, it's you again.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's still some unsettled business there.
Yep.
So once they get off in a very action-packed way, they go back to Fee's ship.
Yep.
And Rampart is basically saying, yeah, I could help.
But I don't want to.
I don't really want to.
And they're like, listen, you can help us, or we can drop you back off where we found you.
Yeah.
Because we know they're missing you right now.
Yeah.
You
So,
might not be missing them.
yeah. So it's kind of like, what's the lesser of two evils here?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. So Rampart goes, well,
Okay.
I'm willing to help out. But yeah, you can't drop me back off. No matter what you do. And they kind of basically say, okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so this is where we're going now.
Yeah.
And that's more or less how it ends.
Yeah, the main bulk of the show was the action sequences of A, getting to Rampart, then B, getting him out of there, because again, they were about as subtle as a bull in a china shop, you know, and then it was just getting off the planet because this is an Imperial labor camp. It's not exactly lightly staffed because it's an off day.
Yeah.
There's enough of a force there that could cause some issues. So that was the bulk of the episode, was just the action sequences to get off planet.
And you know what? It worked, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing about it. Like, there's a lot of action on this.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for that with your Star Wars episodes, like you're going to be very happy with this episode. I was. But it was more or less to build. So like I say, I always hate using the word filler.
Sure.
But that's what it kind of felt like here.
Right.
But it made sense. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
building.
It's building. It's building to the finale. They had yet to figure out how to get to Tantus. They knew nobody who knew how to get there. They found a guy to get there. And sure, they could have just as easily done a simple smash and grab and, you know, simple cut to go showing up on the planet, cut to them leaving the planet, and they got the guy. But that wouldn't make for exciting television.
Right. So it did make sense for what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Very solid episode. Final thoughts on
No,
that?
solid episode. Dug the action. Like I said, it seems like there's not much going on, but when you think of they got to get to Tantus, they got to figure out where the hell it is, because the Empire has wiped it from all records that you can't figure out where it is. You know, they had to figure out how to get there somewhere, and they made it adventurous and action filled, and I dug that.
Yeah, same here. I thought it was solid for what it needed to be. We're trying to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So I don't mind episodes like this because I know we're going to get a big payoff at the end.
Oh yeah.
And that's what matters most of all. So that being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about episode 12 of season 3 of Star Wars, The Bad Batch, entitled Juggernaut? Let's have that discussion, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have a trailer to talk about.
We do.
And this is one that obviously a lot of fans have been waiting to, make their own opinions of, I guess I should say, putting it very, very mildly. Because obviously when we first heard that there was going to be a trailer or a sequel to this film,
Right.
a lot of the fans of pop culture had varying opinions.
Some excited, some not excited, and some kind of why.
Yeah, and I think that I'm in that why category.
Agreed, I am too.
Because the one thing is, with this film, there was no real need for a sequel unless you were going to be going into the comic cinematic universe.
Right. It was one of the ones that, like, the way it ended. Could you do more? Sure. Did it leave a cliffhanger ending or a tease ending a la The Dark Knight, or excuse me, Batman Begins, where, oh shit, like, we know who's coming? No. So it was one that, like you said, when they announced they were doing a sequel, I'm like, okay, why?
Yeah. And the movie that we are going to be talking about is Joker. Folie à Deux.
Foile à Deux.
Yes, because this is a sequel to the 2019 Todd Phillips film, starring Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, and giving a very different version of DC Comics' Clown Prince of Crime than we have seen.
Yeah, very different.
And more grounded. It's the film itself, and Pat, I think you agree with me on this, is a very intense watch.
It is. It's one I know I went and saw with you and my fiance, then girlfriend Liz. Bailey went with us at the time. And it's in that category of film, Schindler's List is one I can think of that, like, you don't exactly have in regular rotation. That, you don't get together with a group of friends just for, say, like a Thanksgiving party or a Christmas party, and you're going to throw something on because it's kind of getting towards the end of the night or late night. You don't really want to do anything crazy. You just want to watch a movie. There's not a lot of people clamoring going, hey, let's watch Joker.
Yeah.
Well, it's not in the regular rotation. It's one that, honestly, I saw in theaters. I know it's been on streaming, for quite some time. I haven't gone out of my way to watch it a second time, just because once was enough for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that the portrayal that they did was not so much following the blueprint of the comic. It was more focused on mental health.
Yes.
And, just this very realistic and very, very intense portrayal.
And I know some people go, well, Heath Ledger's portrayal was a grounded modern take for that time. Yes. This is like in a present day or then present day, because it's been, 5 years since the movie came out. It was an even more modern portrayal of the Joker.
Yeah, this one is very different because Heath Ledger's, I'm getting all fired up about this. His version is for the comics.
Yes.
This version that Phoenix played is not meant for the comics.
No, it's not.
So you can't really make that comparison. You could say they're both grounded, sure.
Yep.
But there are very much distinct differences between both characters. Or both portrayals, I mean. So obviously the first one, very, very, polarizing film.
Yeah.
A lot of people have varying opinions of this.
Yeah.
So the fact that we heard that there was a sequel coming, I don't think any of us really knew what to expect.
Yeah, no, the first one was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. Did it make me uncomfortable at certain parts? Yes, but I think that was the intention. I don't think that the intention of this movie was to just be a straight origin story of the character, the Joker. It was one that, it was a hard R rating, and it was one that was meant to make you a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. So the fact that we have the sequel now, and the only thing that we heard is musical being attached to it.
Yeah.
A lot of fans have been waiting to see what we're going to get out of this. The film has been announced to debut in theaters on October 4th of this year. And this past week, we have got the trailer for said film. So let's do it like we always do, Pat. Spoiler-free statement on this trailer.
I realize the trailer is 2 minutes and 24 seconds, but it's really a teaser trailer because we've known for the longest time Lady Gaga is going to be in the film, and she's going to be portraying Harley Quinn, or at least a version of Harley Quinn. I think if you're going into this expecting a Batman the Animated Series version or some offshoot version of what Margot Robbie has done in recent years, it ain't going to be that. I can tell you that just based off of what little I've seen in the trailer. We've known that, and it's going to be about them, and whatever else happens from there, we're not really sure. I'm sure there's some stuff out there, but I haven't really been digging too much into the spoiler territory. But for the trailer, it was enough to get me intrigued. It was one that, like I said, when they initially released the trailer, I was in the camp of why. Like, I enjoyed the first movie, but to me, it felt perfect, and it felt fine if you just left it at one. I'm not mad I'm getting a sequel. I'm not upset. I'm not like pitchforks and torches, pissed off. I'm just kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what they show me, and I'll make a judgment call from there. And thus far, from the teaser trailer I saw, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely in there. You know what? I might see this if this schedule lines up and things pan out the right way, but I'm intrigued.
I have to agree with you. I mean, I am very indifferent about this.
Sure.
Like, I saw it and I'm interested, but I'm
Right.
also, if I don't go to the theaters and see it, I'm not going to lose sleep about it.
Right.
It's one of these films that I am very curious about what the plot is really going to be.
Right.
And I do have some assumptions as we go along and for the spoiler portion of this that I think maybe we're going to see play out, but it's also one that, like, if you ask me right now, like, hey, it's in the theater right now, do you want to go? I'd be like,
Right. Well, and this is going to be the interesting thing for the film was because when the first one came out in 2019, low expectations for this movie, you know, because that was at a point where DC was kind of wobbling, I guess you could say a little bit, you know, and wasn't exactly on the up and up, but things have turned around since then. At least we hope so. Things are looking brighter. They've had a little bit more success. But the film came out, and I mean, you look at the ratings and you look at the statistics, you know, from IMDb with 1.5 million reviews, it's got an 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics only gave it a 69%, but the audience gave it an 88%. And then over on Letterboxd, with 22,000 fans having watched the movie, it's got a score of 3.8 out of 5. You know, so pretty, I would say, universally enjoyed. I'm not going to say loved, you know, if it was over 4, I'd say it's loved, but it's universally enjoyed. So a lot more expectations with this, especially since, if I'm not mistaken, Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar for his role in the first one. If I'm not mistaken, I'll double check and I'll look that up.
yeah, I mean, the fans will always gravitate towards the Joker. I mean, he's one of the most iconic villains of all pop culture.
Yeah.
And I think to see him, you know, revel in his insanity, I think there's an appeal to it for comic fans and even pop culture fans.
He did win an Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role for this movie.
Okay.
Also won a BAFTA and a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Guild, among, I'm showing you the list, a lot of other awards.
Yeah, no, it definitely, he had a very intense portrayal.
Yeah.
Which, like I say, it went away from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that was in there was maybe a couple of Easter eggs here and there.
Sure. But that was for the fans.
But that was for the fans. But if you're trying to say that this is the Joker you see in the comics, no. Absolutely not.
There's a reason they've never been clear cut on what his origin story is.
Exactly. So for what we see here in Phoenix's character, yeah, there's a lot of open-ended areas that maybe we're going to see a little bit more of here. And I think they're going to play into more of what we saw in the same film.
Yeah.
The first film, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, I mean, let's just get into the spoiler talk about this because, like I say, there's a lot that I think I'm going to slip up and say.
Okay.
So let's just get into it in 3, 2, 1. So, Pat, I mean, what did you think?
Like I said, the trailer was one that I was excited to see because I'd heard some of the rumors and I'd heard the musical stuff about it, and Lady Gaga being cast. I thought that was interesting. You know, I'm like, okay, her playing Harley Quinn. I can kind of see that, but it was one that I was still on the fence about just because it was one that I felt the original ended so well that it could be left alone and didn't really need a sequel, which you don't get a lot in Hollywood these days. You know, a lot of them are set up to be franchises or sequels or whatever you want to call it so that they can keep this going and keep the gravy train rolling. So like when I said they announced this, I'm like, really? I don't know. But the trailers got me intrigued enough that I'm like, okay, this isn't really much to go on, but you've at least piqued my attention. I'm willing to give, the first full-blown trailer. Because again, I'm on the Warner Brothers Pictures YouTube page. This video's got over 9.7 million views in less than 24 hours. As of recording, it's still number 1 on trending on all of YouTube. And it's got over 24,000 comments on this. It's one that I'm going, okay, you've piqued my interest. There's not a lot to go on, but I'm willing to see the first full-blown trailer to kind of go from there to see whether this is, I need to see the first week, or one that, I can wait until my schedule clears up a bit and I don't necessarily have to make time for this movie.
Yeah, this one I thought really borrowed a lot from the first one. And I mean, I saw it and I'm like, okay, how much of this is reality and how much of this is in his own head? Right. And that was a lot of things that played into the first movie.
Right.
And I think they kind of doubled down to it because Foile à Deux means madness for two in French. And I think that is where we're going in this trailer because there's just so much that you're trying to piece together what's really in happening and which is not, which is something that, like I say, it tied into Arthur Fleck's mental health.
That was the great part of the first one, was that twist, however long it was, 3/4 of the way through the movie, where you realize, oh, fuck, we don't know what the hell we've been seeing the entire time, if it's real or not.
Right. And I think that you're seeing a lot of that play in here.
I agree. Yeah.
Because, like I say, the opening shot is Arthur Fleck inside Arkham Asylum, we're assuming. Mm-hmm. And, just kind of bouncing around in a room.
Looks like it's the same room they left him in the first one.
Right. And the guard is even saying, like, you got a joke for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's getting led down a hallway, and then he walks by a bunch of the patients singing in a choir.
Yeah, it looks like they're just practicing or something.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first shot we get of Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, who's singing, who's looking out the door and makes the connection with Arthur Fleck. Mm-hmm. So we do see another shot quickly of him smoking a cigarette, and now he's getting led down in a rainy walkway, and the narration is just kind of alluding to just more of, a damaged human being.
Music helps the soul. We sing or we perform music to help heal ourselves.
Yeah. So then we get a shot of Harley Quinn walking up the stairs. I'm curious if this is the same stairs they used in the first Joker movie.
I think it is, but it's from the top looking down or looking out.
Right.
That's my guess.
So you see Harley Quinn walks up and says, I'm a nobody. And also...
I think she says, I haven't done anything memorable or whatever it is like you.
Yeah. But we do see this shot of her in the same choir room, so to speak, where Arthur Fleck's looking at her. And she's making the finger gesture like she has a gun to her head. And you see him just kind of look there, but she's smiling, and then she acts like she pulls the trigger, which is
it's one of those like, oh, this place, am I right?
Yeah. So then we get a shot of Joaquin Phoenix in his Joker ensemble at a piano
with a singular spotlight on him from the what I presume is ceiling of the room.
Right. So as this happens, we get another shot of Fleck and Harley in the crowd like they're watching the performance.
Yep.
Now, I don't think this is real by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that how they set this up is very smart for the trailer.
They're very deliberately cutting this in a way where you can't really tell. Because I kind of took that scene where they're sitting next to each other, is they're just showing a movie to the patients.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there watching because at this point they've connected, they've made friends with each other, and that's when she says, hey, let's get out of here.
Right. So then we get a shot of Joker and Harley on stage dancing a bit.
Am I the only one getting La La Land vibes from this shot?
A little bit, yeah. No, I have to agree with you. No, it definitely has that La La Land vibe. It also reminded me just for a little hair of Mad Love in the painted cover.
Oh, okay.
You see Joker and Harley dance for the first time. So we're seeing, this play out. And the song What the World Needs Now is playing in the background. And then it shows to reality.
Yep.
And you see...
Shit's on fire.
Yeah, there's
a whole building.
Chaos in the streets, and Harley and Joker are just dancing away like normal in their normal clothes.
All the meanwhile, there is a spotlight on them from somewhere.
Yes. So then we get a shot then of Joker is running away from his Joker persona.
Or someone dressed as it.
Yeah, and then some more people. So like I say, because the last time we saw him, he had thought that he started this revolution of Jokers.
Yep.
And I think this is kind of playing off of more of this.
Yeah, I think there are clearly still some remnants. This like you said, could be just another hallucination. He's not like those people aren't really there. What I think is the more likely case is at this point he's broken out, word has gotten out, and there are clearly still some folks who believe in his cause and are willing to fight that fight with him. And, it's a lookalike. It's somebody who wants to dress up because the one in the background is very clearly wearing the same costume and same hair and everything else.
Yeah.
But then the other one that's closer, more in the immediate background, is what looks like just one of the goons, one of the clowns, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Who, the black shirt, blue jeans, pair of sneakers, brown jacket, and then just your average dollar store clown mask.
Yeah. So from here, we go back to a certain late night talk show. That if you know the first movie...
Did not end very well.
Yeah. And in big lights, Joker and Harley is on there. So you see that now it appears that they're a
Late night talk show.
Late night talk show,
A
musical act.
la David Letterman or something, or Jimmy Fallon. Take your pick.
This completely reminded me of Letterman and Paul Schaefer.
Yeah.
So you see Joker sitting there just kind of playing in the crowd. You see Lady Gaga is dancing in front of a piano. Mm-hmm. And then you go, like I say, they flash back and forth a lot in this trailer. Mm-hmm. So you do get a shot of Arthur getting dragged in Arkham Asylum back to his cell, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. While he's laughing.
Mm-hmm. Then it goes to a courthouse shot of Harley Quinn
Yep.
in her outfit.
Yeah.
Walking up the court staircase.
Not the traditional outfit, but I dig it.
No, it works.
Yeah.
It works for what they're doing here. Mm-hmm. So, like I say, I'm not mad about it. If this happens in the comics, I wouldn't be that mad.
The other thing we got to point out, too, is there are a host of there's a lot of people outside this courthouse, and the cops are separating the two. Mm-hmm. But the sides are very clearly split because they're on the right-hand side. There are at least 2-3 signs I can see that do say "Free Joker" with the face paint.
Yeah, it's a very interesting setup. But this, like
it's also a scythe for some reason. A little weird.
Well, you know, what we saw last time in the movie for 2019, I mean, they did play into this.
Yeah.
There is a Joker contingent. So they're tying back into this. But then we get a shot of a little more quieter moment where Harley is putting the makeup on Arthur a little bit. So we not
a
exactly
good portion into it.
Yeah, not exactly sure what's happening there. And then you get a shot of a doctor talking to Arthur, and he's like, "Tell us what changed." And you do see a couple shots of like him getting drug away in a police car.
Yeah.
And the crowd is like playing up to him like he's a celebrity.
Uh-huh.
And then it goes to him in a white suit.
But in the white suit, there is a larger shot, and this looks like it's a musical set, from Broadway, and you see a long aisle and a figure in a what looks like not your traditional wedding dress, but it's all white and it's a veil, with some folks standing on either side of. There's 3 people on Joker's right, our left. There's 2 people on Joker's left, our right. So it looks like it's a wedding sequence, in a musical.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even Arthur says, too, he's like, I'm not alone anymore. That's the big change. And then we do see a shot of Arthur and Harley kissing from jail.
Yep.
And then, just a couple of different brief shots. There's one of them on top of a rooftop of the Hotel Arkham.
Where the sign says vacancy.
Yeah, so there is going back to the dance play.
Yep.
And, Arthur is sitting there screaming, like, this is what we need to be talking about. Mm-hmm. And there's just, like, a lot more chaotic scenes playing out, too, including an explosion in front of a crowd.
Yep.
And we do see that, Harley is sitting there putting, her makeup on.
Pulls a gun on Joker.
Yeah, and Joker's like, performing at a piano too, smoking a cigarette.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's from that talk show sequence again.
Yeah. And then they go to what looks like a prison window, like when you go to visit somebody in jail.
Yep.
And Harley puts a smile up with a red lipstick on the glass. Mm-hmm. And she says, like, I want to see who you really are. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of leans into it and smiles.
Starts smiling.
So you see the red smile of the Joker appear on this. Mm-hmm. I thought this was a cool shot.
I do too.
And literally that's how the trailer ends.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts going on with this.
Yes.
But like I say, I left this intrigued.
Mm-hmm. I am too.
But it's not like I'm counting down the days.
Right. I need to see a little bit more before I decide, am I going to clear the schedule to go see this, or am I just going to, whenever I find time, make time to go see it?
Yeah, because the Harley Joker love story is the definition of it's complicated, and I love the fact that they ended it in the comics, and Harley is a much better character because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in every other level I can possibly say.
Yeah.
The fact they got her away from Joker and she's evolved now into one of DC's biggest characters.
I mean, it kind of got out of control to the point where one of the Batman Arkham City DLCs, they insinuated she was pregnant with Joker's baby.
Yeah.
And then the next one came out and they went, LOL, JK.
Yeah.
So that at that point, like, I was all for, I love the Joker Harley dynamic and I loved it. But even that point for me, I was like, all right, this is getting to be a little much.
It had its moment in time.
Yeah, it did.
But it's over. And I truly just, it makes my skin crawl when I hear about Harley Joker, hashtag relationship goals. I still see that to this day, and I'm just going to keep moving. Like, listen, I can't even get into this.
Yeah.
So if you really want, I'll even say this: if you want a great comic version, go pick up Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey right now with Harley in it. Fantastic book.
My guess for this movie though is I'm going to guess it's going to start off kind of in the traditional Harley origin story, where she's the intern or whatever it is at Arkham working with him, slowly becomes enamored by him, and then she's going to get fired from it, and that's when we see her show up at the jailhouse and make the smiley face we saw at the end of the trailer, and she's going to end up there.
Could be.
Because let's face it, does it make a whole lot of sense for you to put somebody in there who's clearly got a fascination, clearly got an obsession with the guy? No, but then again, it's Gotham City judicial system. They don't always do the brightest things.
Yeah, I think, however they set up Harley's origin is going to be the key point here. Mm-hmm. If she's just another patient, that's an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
If she goes from being his psychiatrist to then partner in crime, we've seen that play out in the comics and on the cartoon.
It works.
It works. So if they try going a different route, that would be interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like for right now, the trailer is okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It
didn't blow me away, but it got me intrigued enough to go, okay, maybe.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not going to bash this.
Right.
By any stretch of the imagination, but if you're asking me about my excitement level, like it's at a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm literally, I could flip a coin and go see this.
I'm about the same, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, it is what it is. Like if you're amped up for it, all power to you. Like, listen, be happy about it, and don't let anybody tell you like you don't want it, you shouldn't watch it, whatever. And if you really hate it, just keep it to yourself. Like seriously, we it's not going to sway anybody that wants to say this is their movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, from my vantage point, like, this is mid-level right now, and, will I go see it? Maybe.
Right.
But,
like I said, I need to see more before I decide, am I going to clear the schedule and make time to go see this the week it comes out, or is this one that, like, yeah, you know what, if I got a free day, nothing going on, I could make time to go see it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
We'll have to definitely see, but there's a lot of time between now and October 4th when it hits movie theaters. So in the meantime, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. Joker, Foile à Deux. What is your take on the trailer? Are you excited about this movie or are you not? Let's keep that conversation positive and constructive, and we can talk about it. So hit us up, let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is some video game news, because we did get a trailer and a release date for the upcoming Star Wars video game from the folks over at Ubisoft titled Star Wars Outlaws. Now, this is going to be coming to us on the next-gen consoles, so PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, what is it called, the One? Or whatever it's called.
Series 1.
Series 1, Series X, not coming to PS4 or the prior Xbox console. Trailer looks all right. It looks interesting and definitely intriguing where they've set the time period. It is because, you see the carbonite slab of one Han Solo. Mm-hmm. So that clearly puts it in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Dealing with the criminal underworld, because you do see a number of the crime syndicates if you're familiar with some of the stories in Star Wars the last couple of years. I do also see a little cameo from someone from Solo, a Star Wars story. I'm definitely intrigued by that one.
Yeah.
Pay attention, you'll see who I mean. Trailer looks interesting, though, because this game is going to be basically an open world GTA style game, because you play, a bounty hunter, well, not a bounty hunter, a scoundrel, a Han Solo type figure trying to make their way in the galaxy. And I say GTA because you can get wanted levels from the Empire. They can hunt you down, and you can not be available because there's multiple star systems I know you can travel to with this game. That you could have a wanted level and not be able to travel back to that star system for a while until the heat cools down. So it's definitely one that I saw got announced, and I was like, oh, this seems intriguing. But the more I read about this game, the more I'm kind of like, this might be a wait and see.
Yeah.
Especially with Ubisoft games these days, because the game's got just 2 different versions coming out for it. So like I said, it's coming out for the Xbox Series X and then also the PlayStation 5, but there's the special edition and then there's the gold edition. So the special edition will run you $69.99 plus tax if applicable in your state. And then the gold edition is $109.99. Now, why is this? What's so special about the gold edition? And this is part of why I go, not really so sold on this game. If you buy the gold edition, you get 3 days early access. And I'm reading from the listing on GameStop.com. It says, quote, 3 days early access. Play up to 3 days early with the gold edition, which includes the base game and the season pass. Now, it does say the gold edition includes the base game, season pass, which has 2 upcoming story pack DLCs, and an instant day 1 mission and cosmetics. Also, that includes a 3-day early access. And if you pre-order the game, I'm pretty sure this goes for both versions of the game, not just the gold edition, you do get the Kessel Runner bonus pack, including spaceship cosmetic and speeder cosmetic pack. Limited number available while supplies last. Offer is not guaranteed. The reason I'm skeptical about this is, one, it sounds like it's going... Now, if you've played an Ubisoft game recently, especially the Assassin's Creed ones, it's going to be microtransactioned out of the ass.
Yeah.
And that'll include some stuff to make the game relatively easy. I know I can speak for, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I played those 2 most recently. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I know if you wanted to, part of the fun for me was going around the map, because I put way too many hours into that game.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging.
430 some odd hours into that game. But no, I know there was a thing like a microtransaction you could buy. I didn't do it, but I saw it in there, where if you wanted to unlock all of the points on the map without physically going up to them, you could pay the fee and you could do that. There's cosmetics out the backside for both armor, weapons, your mount, your ship. And I get the feeling this is going to be the same way, so I'm really not down with that. The other thing with this, and this has got some people pissed off, and the other shitty thing with this is that it's going to require an online connection to install this game. So for those of you in rural areas or internet areas with internet connection isn't that great, you might not be able to play this game because reading from an article on IGN.com, it says, quote, Star Wars Outlaws might be one of Ubisoft's most highly anticipated single-player games in a while, but you'll still need an internet connection to install it. Information on the next big Star Wars game spinoff comes from its box art and pre-order information, which became available on retailer websites like Best Buy across the internet today. Those who have already gone to pre-purchase their copy ahead of its August launch might have glossed over the physical game case's cover, which says, quote, Internet required to install the game next to the ESRB rating. It means that even if you own a physical copy, you'll need to be connected online when booting up Star Wars Outlaws for the first time. It's currently unclear how large the installation will be. Ubisoft confirmed with IGN that an internet connection is required to install Star Wars Outlaws and its updates, but otherwise, you'll be free to play offline. Close quote. So, listen, file sizes and downloads for games these days are asinine as is. Talk to any Call of Duty player, they'll tell you that. I'm not down with the whole it's got to be online to download it day one.
Yeah.
Stop shipping a half-assed game. Ship it fully done where it doesn't need a massive install. Hi, Cyberpunk 2077 year one. So for me, I might get it, but it's definitely going to be a wait and see how this is because I got some skeptics.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. This is going to be a wait and see.
It looks good.
It looks good.
And I'm interested because it's not, your typical Star Wars game, which is usually someone running around with a lightsaber. And hey, I got no issue with that. I enjoy running around with a lightsaber as much as anybody.
True story.
But it's Ubisoft. I'm skeptical. Then we got to switch to stick with some more gaming news because, hey, did you know they did a remake of the Dead Space series from the folks at EA?
What?
They remade Dead Space. Took out some stuff that I know some fans didn't like, streamlined a few things. Thought it did well, got some critical acclaim, and folks really liked it. But it sounds like, according to some rumors, we might not be getting a sequel. So, according to Jeff Grubb on Twitter, he said, quote, EA Motive was working on a Dead Space 2 remake, which was in concept phase, but got canceled/shelved because of the lackluster sales of the first remake. They are now working on Iron Man and Battlefield. So that then led to some folks being not so thrilled because, hey, a lot of people, I didn't really hear too much about people didn't like the Dead Space remake. It was pretty generally like, hey, this is an awesome game. I love this.
Right.
But EA has now denied those reports. And reading from an article on IGN.com, it says, quote, EA has denied reports that a Dead Space 2 remake was in development before being canceled, with a spokesperson telling IGN, quote, we don't normally comment on rumors, but there is no validity to this story, close quote. EA's comments follow reports from Jeff Grubb, who claimed that EA Motive was working on concepts for Dead Space 2, but that it was ultimately shelved due to lackluster sales of the previous release. However, IGN understands that EA Motive never considered a Dead Space 2 remake. EA hasn't reported the Dead Space remake's official sales, but it was the best-selling new game in the United States in January of 2023. A source tells IGN that Dead Space Remake was ultimately considered to have done well. Yesterday, EA announced that Motive is forming a new team led by Dead Space Remake developers Roman Campos Oriola and Philip Ducharme to support single-player and multiplayer objectives for Battlefield Universe. Motive also insisted that Iron Man remains an important priority and that development is going well, close quote. So, who the hell knows what's going to be going on with this game? I know Dead Space fans are probably none too thrilled, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, very confusing, to put it mildly.
And a little bit of a note for Kingdom Hearts fans, because there's an article on IGN that caught my eye for obvious reasons. And the article headline reads, Kingdom Hearts fans pine for update on second anniversary of its announcement. The article reads, quote, Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced 2 years ago today, April 10th, 2024, and fans are pining for an update from developer Square Enix. Discussing the anniversary on Reddit, fans were forced to assure each other the Kingdom Hearts 4 reveal wasn't just shared fever dream, but did actually happen, as despite coming out big with a lengthy trailer, Square Enix hasn't made any official announcements about the game since. Quote, I'm still not certain any of this ever even happened, joked Just a Quiet Wallflower. Like, is any of this for real or not? I'm so ready to cry over a new trailer. Fans were also quick, if not a little pained, to point out Kingdom Hearts 3 was released more than 5 years ago, 5 years after its reveal trailer, which perhaps explains why they have a sense of humor about the lengthy wait for more information. Quote, I'm convinced Tetsuya Nomura thinks Kingdom Hearts fans don't age, joked Forged Fox 3. Only 11 years to go for its release, added Malka's 45. Kingdom Hearts 4 isn't coming out until there are 4 to 6 lore-critical games on disparate platforms, said Pat Morgan 234. Close quote. So, listen, I want a new Kingdom Hearts game as much as anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only person would be the birthday boy today, Tyler Mack from 30 and Nerdy Podcast.
Happy birthday to him. But
yes.
To those Kingdom Hearts fans, were you not around for the original wait time? I first got into Kingdom Hearts, and I'm not trying to flex and say I was an OG fan, but like I was around.
You were, though. You were.
I was around for the first one.
Yeah.
I remember the first one getting advertised on Disney Channel, saying that looks really cool, and getting it for Christmas in 2002. Mm-hmm. The sequel, I got the sequel, Chain of Memories, for Christmas on my Game Boy Advance in 2004. Mm-hmm. I got Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 was the first game I ever pre-ordered. You know, I went to GameStop, or then it was Electronics Boutique EB Games, with my mom, and was like, and I had heard pre-ordering was a thing because this is 2006. I'm still in high school. I had just gotten a job, so I just finally had money where I could access it and do it. And I was like, hey, is it possible for me to pre-order Kingdom Hearts 2? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how much do I need to put down? And they're like, well, you can put as much as you want down. You can pay the whole thing off now, or you can just do $5. I'm like, great. I'm going to do the whole thing right now. So I pre-ordered. Kingdom Hearts 2 was the first pre-order game, so I've been around a while. And even on the forums back in the days when we were pining and dissecting every trailer that had come out and what the hell does this mean? Blonde-haired kid, for those of you who know. But Kingdom Hearts 3, early concept stuff came out not long after 2 came out. So 2005, 2006, we started hearing stuff. We didn't get a confirmation it was happening until 2013.
Yeah.
So you went from 2005 to 2013. Do the math. 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the game didn't come out until 2019. Like, do y'all forget, or were you just not around for it? The wait sucks. I agree. But wait, it'll be fine.
Yeah. You just gotta be patient, folks. Yeah. I mean, we live in a day and age, though, where nobody wants to wait. Everybody wants to be the first one to get a scoop and all that jazz. So.
I know. Then we got to switch over to some television news because we got a trailer for something I did not know was coming. But when they announced,
I heard rumors.
See, you heard more than I did because I didn't hear shit about this.
Wait, I scooped you on a Star Wars?
You did.
Write this down. Save this moment.
Yeah. But we did get a trailer last week for the upcoming series, short, sequel, whatever the hell this thing is.
Sequel.
Star Wars Tales of the Empire. Now, if you
Yes.
remember last year, I think it was, 2 years ago, whatever it was.
2 years ago, I believe.
We got Star Wars Tales of the Jedi.
Yep.
Series of shorts about some Star Wars characters, fleshed out the story a little bit. This is obviously the sequel to it, Tales of the Empire. Gotta say, I am super fucking pumped for this because we do see it'll focus on the story of Morgan Elsbeth, who we know from the Ahsoka series, or was it the, yeah, it was the Ahsoka series.
Yeah, I was going to say
It was
Ahsoka.
the Ahsoka series. For some reason, I want to say the Ezra series,
you
but
know,
I'm
I
like,
was like-
Ezra didn't get a series.
I was leaning Andor for some reason.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
but,
no.
but it's Ahsoka.
Ahsoka series. So we'll get a little bit of the backstory for Morgan Elsbeth and kind of maybe how she went from surviving the downfall of the Night Sisters, which, hey, if you haven't seen that, watch Clone Wars, all 6 or 7 seasons, now on Disney+. The other one, the more interesting one, is we're also spotted in this trailer, a certain general of the droid type like to use 4 lightsabers. I know Matthew Wood's going to have some stuff to do.
Yes.
If you know, you know. But no, the other one, the more intriguing one, is we're going to find out what the fuck happened to Barriss Offee. Now, if you don't know who Barriss Offee is, I don't really want to spoil anything. All I'm going to say is if you want to learn about what the hell is her deal and how she got to the point she is in this trailer, go to Disney Plus, look up the Star Wars The Clone Wars. Make sure you're not watching the 2D animated one, that you're watching the 3D animated one. Go to season 5 and go and watch. I'm scrolling through looking for it right now. Okay, there it is. Watch episodes 17, 18, 19, and 20. The final 4 episodes of the 5th season of Clone Wars. You will find out why she's in the situation she's in. It's one of the better arcs of the Clone Wars. And to finally get the payoff and figure out what the hell happened to her, because what we see in the trailer has been a fan theory for a long time. Since the Clone Wars ended the first time when it was on Cartoon Network. So the fact we're actually getting some confirmation on this, I am super excited for.
Yeah, I love seeing shows like this.
Yeah.
We get more of these? I hope so. Because anytime you can really give a spotlight on some lesser known characters, really kind of give a good story behind it.
Right.
I always think that works. That's like way back in the day with Marvel Comics Presents.
Yep.
I always thought that was great. Granted, you had a Wolverine story to lead you in, but you also took lesser tier characters and gave them time.
Right, and the nice thing with this kind of series and Tales of the Jedi is, it gives you that opportunity to tell the stories of, like you said, some lesser known characters, but they don't necessarily need a full show. So it'll be good. Sticking with some television news and switching over to some Game of Thrones stuff, we did find out from Kit Harington that it sounds like the long rumored spinoff show he was going to do focused on Jon Snow is on the shelf right now.
Good.
So the article on IGN does read, quote, the Jon Snow-centric Game of Thrones HBO spinoff series that might have offered a glimpse of the events after the finale is, quote, on the shelf, author Kit Harington says. Back in 2022, series creator George R.R. Martin confirmed HBO was working on a Jon Snow spinoff, with the workings titled Snow. According to Martin, Harington was developing the series with his own team. Speaking with Screen Rant to promote his new film, Blood for Dust, which releases in theaters and on digital on April 19th, Harington revealed that a spin-off series is, quote, firmly on the shelf, citing his team's challenge to craft the right story for the cause. Quote, currently it's off the table because we couldn't find the right story to tell that we were all excited about enough. So we decided to lay down the tools for the time being, Harington told Screen Rant. There may be a time in the future where we return to it, but at the moment, no, it's firmly on the shelf, close quote.
Good. I think at this stage, anything from the previous Game of Thrones era just needs to stay there.
Yeah.
I think that you have too many spin-offs now.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, House of the Dragon coming back. Mm-hmm.
There's another one they're working on or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they have so many projects. Like it's going to turn into like Walking Dead.
And it's going to be a little oversaturated.
And I just don't want that.
Yeah. No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued about what happened. Don't get me wrong.
Sure. But
I always love that, with a good story, book, comic, video game, movie, television. What was this person doing before the show or whatever it is? What was this person doing afterwards? I'm always intrigued by that, but time and place.
Yeah, exactly.
Then if you're looking for something to watch this week, I know the reviews are coming out. It's dropping actually tonight as we record. It's the whole season dropping at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. do the time adjustments for your own time zone. But on Prime Video, Fallout is dropping. And
Yeah.
I am excited for this. I know the reviews have been dropping. I know IGN gave it a 9. The review, I cannot wait to watch this.
Yeah, I know Nerd Initiative had very high praises for this. I know our guy Sean from Metalcore Nerds has been raving about it as well. So I'm definitely interested to see how this is. I mean, anytime you do video games to live action, it's always proceed with caution.
Yes.
But this one, it sounds like is a big hit.
Looking on Rotten Tomatoes, currently the average tomato meter for the critics is 93%.
Wow, that's big.
Which, when it comes for video game adaptations,
That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big for video game stuff.
Yeah. Super excited to watch this, though.
Oh, you have to be.
I looked it up. It's with 55 reviews.
Okay, but still,
Yeah,
take the victory laps where you got them.
absolutely.
So I got one more little entertainment thing to kick in, and then we got some comic stuff to talk about.
Okay.
It was announced via Twitter, or X if you will, by one Eric Kripke, and multiple sites are reporting it, including comicbook.com, so I definitely give them the plug.
Okay.
The Boys Season 4 is done.
Shit.
And according to the tweet that has been posted from Kripke's account, quote, as of today, The Boys Season 4 is completely, totally, absolutely done. I'm really grateful and so proud of this cast and crew. Could be our best yet. Can't wait to unleash it onto the world. Coming June 13th
Oh, shit.
on Prime Video.
That's soon.
End quotes.
I need more boys TV show in my life.
Yes. So very, very excited to see what happens here.
Yeah.
So a lot of different directions they can go with. Obviously, we'll be talking about it on the show when it comes about as well. Comic book news-wise, though, a couple of big stories were breaking as we were talking. Some big announcements, too. One that definitely caught my eye, and if you know, obviously, this creator has definitely done some legendary work. He's bringing a new ongoing series to our friends over at Boom Studios.
Ooh.
So according to the press release from Boom Studios, Jeff Lemire is bringing a new ongoing series to Boom. So something to keep an eye out for in the fall. To read the press release, quote, Jeff Lemire, the Eisner Award-winning and New York Times bestselling writer and artist behind the critically and commercially acclaimed series such as Sweet Tooth, Essex County, Black Hammer, and Ascender, brings the storytelling prowess for the first time to Boom Studios this fall with a yet as of unannounced new series. Quote, the series is a dream come true for me, said Matt Gagnon, editor-in-chief of Boom Studios. Jeff Lemire is one of my all-time favorite creators. It's a highlight to bring him on, to have him bring his newest original creation to our publishing house. This will be a true ongoing series in the grand tradition of Jeff's masterpiece, Sweet Tooth. End quote. So that's big news.
Nice.
So that's super news. Like I'm excited for it. Lemire has always done really, really good stuff. So I definitely want to keep an eye out for that. And then from our friends at Marvel, we were talking X-Men, and that just made me remind of what the big plans are coming this summer. So we do know Uncanny X-Men in Legacy numbers is dropping in June. They're doing the big relaunch. We've talked about this with Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman's X-Men. Gail Simone, can't wait to read this, and David Marquez, Uncanny X-Men, and Eve L. Ewing and Carmen Camaro's Exceptional X-Men.
Nice.
So we do know about those 3 books are dropping this summer. It has been announced 3 more X titles are coming. We did get the announcement of creative teams and 3 titles for 2 of them.
Okay.
But the 3 titles are Thursday, as we record, they'll drop NYX. So we'll know who's behind that. I have a feeling about it, which I'm just going to say right now on record. I think that'll be like the new Generation X / New Mutants team.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I know there has been a previous incarnation of
Right.
NYX.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be the sequel or not. I have to wait to see. But according to our friends from Marvel, they did send the press release.
I recognize one of those faces.
Yes. So
Certain Merc with a mouth.
yes. So joining X-Force, and Jeffrey Thorne and Marcus Toe are going to be the creative team behind this. Forge is now leading the X-Men or the X-Force.
Oh boy.
So reading the press release from Marvel Comics, quote, this time the iconic superhero Super Squad will be built from the ground up by the mutant inventor Forge, accessing an Omega-level degree of his unique, complex mutant power to build anything. Forge will bear witness to everything broken in the world. Luckily, he knows what he needs to fix it. Rachel Summers, Betsy Braddock, Sage, Surge, and Tank. To save nothing short of existence itself, they'll jump sword, gun, and fist first into deadly uncertainty, and the only thing they'll get in their way will be the secrets they keep, end quote. And like Pat alluded to, there is a certain member on this team as well.
Which makes sense given the fact he's getting a movie here this summer.
Yeah, but it kind of, going by the press release, I don't know if he's a permanent member. It looks like they'll bring in certain characters for certain missions. Deadpool will be in the first arc.
Oh, boy.
So super excited about this. Curious to see if he'll be sticking around or... I mean, he does have some ties in with the previous incarnation of X-Force, so it could happen.
This is true.
I'm very excited to see that. And then the third title, like we said, NYX is getting announced Thursday. So X-Force was announced on Tuesday. Today, and I'm super freaking excited about this.
Yeah?
We did get an announcement of a new ongoing Phoenix story.
Ooh.
But I'm extremely excited because the creative team, one of our favorite writers here at the ODPH, the one and only Stephanie Phillips.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So Alessandro Miracolo is doing the art. This is dropping in July. And listen, you had me at Stephanie Phillips writing. Anytime I see her on a book, I will pick it up, no matter what. Her track record, she is absolutely killing it. So this will be something. And just going by the press release, to quote again, quote, she is Jean Grey, she is Phoenix, she saves the world. She brings death. One woman alone in space who not only must do what no one else can, she yearns to. A desperate SOS from Nova brings the Phoenix to the edge of a black hole where hundreds of lives hang in the balance. And whatever Jean does or fails to do will bring darkness to the universe and haunt her in ways she can scarcely imagine, end quote. Oh, take my money now. I'm here for this.
Uh-huh.
So definitely excited about this, Pat. I mean, what's your initial reaction to this?
I mean, listen, anytime you can do a great story with Phoenix, I'm always intrigued. And if Stephanie Phillips is writing, fucking sign me up.
Yeah. This will be a no-brainer. We'll be talking about this when it comes out in the summer. A lot of X-Men titles are coming. Like I say, I only know about the 6 thus far.
Right.
I would imagine we'll have a couple more get alluded to. I'm not doubting a Wolverine re-up possibly.
Probably.
Or do something there, like, because just with everything kicking off new.
Yeah.
I know after the end of the Sabretooth War, I would imagine, but we'll have to see how that plays out. But speaking of comics, it is New Comic Book Day. Pat, what you picking up this week?
Got a couple things picking up this week. The first of which is from the folks over at DC. It is Action Comics, issue number 1064. And this is House of Brainiac, Part 1.
Yeah.
Description of this: Brainiac attacks. Brainiac's Lobo army invades Metropolis in an action-packed, oversized issue. The Super Family and all the heroes of Metropolis join the fight, but will they be enough to hold off Brainiac's lethal and crazed soldiers? Can Superman and Lex learn what Brainiac is searching for? He's not bottling Metropolis, so what is he collecting instead? This cover looks fucking nuts, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a big kickoff to Absolute Power, I believe.
Then you've got the folks over Marvel, Resurrection of Magneto, issue number 4. This is from Al Ewing. This one reads, Return of the King. The master of magnetism has returned to the world, but it is not the world he left. Nor is Magneto the same man who left it. Has death changed him for the better or for the worse? And when he sees what Orcus has done to mutant kind, will it change him again?
This is an interesting series. So going into the final hours of the Krakoan era, I would imagine there's going to be a lot happening going on here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the series has been real good, too. Then you've got Invincible Iron Man, issue number 17 from Gary Dugan. This one reads, Tony Stark's greatest accomplishment may have just become the world's most advanced coffin. Trapped with a deactivated armor, Tony must face down his demons and his legacy. Can Iron Man escape, or will mutant kind's hopes die along with him? Not to worry anybody, but, there is a certain armor that looks rather familiar.
It looks like Iron Patriot.
Yeah, a little bit. But it is choking Tony Stark in a suit. He's not wearing said armor, so should be good. This series, if you haven't read it, start reading it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I keep hearing a lot of things about it. I have to catch up.
Then you've got Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 47 from Zeb Wells. This one reads, After the events of Web of Spider-Man number 1, Chasm is on the loose. Spider-Man better track down his erstwhile clone and Hallows Eve ASAP. We're getting closer to Amazing Spider-Man number 50. And the panel of this one, that's looking a little concerning, but it looks real good.
I will admit, this looks interesting. Even with Ben Reilly, but I like Ben Reilly as a villain.
Yeah.
Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, horrible. Hate it. My top 3 of my Thanos snap, he's number 1.
Oh, yeah.
But Him as a villain, I will give the benefit of the doubt because I think that that's how you write him perfectly.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check that out.
Then you've got X-Men 97, issue number 2. This one reads, this is from Steve Fox. This one reads, Sabretooth strikes, and he's not the only threat the X-Men are facing. As Jean Grey and Cyclops prepare to embark on a bold new adventure, a sinister foe makes his move from the shadows. Unleashing a torrent of new terror, can an old friend turn the tide? Or will it be too late to save Wolverine from being ripped to shreds? Close quote. So, of course, this is the comic series bridging the gap between the end of the first X-Men series and X-Men 97. Clearly, if you've seen X-Men 97, you know Wolverine's going to make it okay. But it's what happens in the middle in between.
Yeah.
Should be real good. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about this series.
Then you've got Star Wars The High Republic, issue number 6 from Kevin Scott. This one reads, Back to the light. Someone close to the Jedi fell from grace long ago, but there's always good in people, isn't there? Force users clash as a rogue wielder terrorizes the sacred streets of an ancient moon. Plus, secrets are revealed as the Starlight Jedi reunite. But how long will their alliance last? Definitely interested with this one, Kevin Scott. Always doing good things. Lastly, certainly not leastly, Star Wars Darth Vader issue number 45 from Greg Pak. This series, oh my God. Description of this, a secret plan to take down the Emperor. Darth Vader has used the Schism Imperial to secure terrible new forces, including the cyborgs of the Mar Corps. After the death machine of Governor Toltaza, but what treasure or horror lies within the martyrdom of frozen tears, and what cost will Vader and his allies pay to secure it? Listen, he's trying to take down the Emperor. That's not an easy task, as we all know, having seen the movies. This is going to be nuts. It's going to be real good.
I mean, Marvel and Star Wars is doing nothing wrong, so
this is true.
Can't go wrong there. All right, for me this week, Pat had a couple of my picks there. Excellent choices too, by the way, my friend.
Thank you.
So some other books definitely want to keep an eye out for at the comic shop from DC Comics. Arguably my favorite Batman series right now.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin number 8. Joshua Williamson, Nicola Shemezia. I apologize if I messed the name up. Steps in for art duties with Rex Locus. Simone DiMeo is not on. It does the cover here, but is not on the book for this issue. And this is picking up a lot of interesting directions here because last issue Flatline showed up, who we know has a history with Damian Wayne.
Right.
So she is in town looking for her sisters. So there's a little story that happens there. Plus, Batman is still investigating the whole story going on with the cult of Man-Bat that is happening there. And then there's the big X factor known as Shush. So a lot of moving parts are happening here. This series has been nothing but fun. And especially it's a very stark contrast to what Chip Zdarsky is doing.
Right.
And I'm not meaning that in a bad sense by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
But I love how you can pick up two Batman books and they're totally different vibes. And this one, I love the fact that we're just focusing on the father and son angle with Batman and Damian. I think it does really good stuff. And like I say, I really like the Chip Zdarsky stuff too, because it is really out there, but in my opinion, I love the takes he's doing. It's fresh and creative, so I'll always side with that. Coming from our friends over at Skybound Entertainment and Image Comics, Daniel Warren Johnson, Transformers number 7.
Oh.
Brand new art kicks off, also with a new artist. Jorge Corona is now taking over art duties on the book and doesn't miss a beat. This one is a knockdown, drag-out brawl for who is going to be leading the Decepticons.
Nice.
Between my personal favorite Decepticon of all time, Soundwave, and Starscream.
Ooh.
So this one, like I say, doesn't miss a beat with the art change duty. It still is a phenomenal series. It might be one of the best at in the shops. Like we can have this debate about a few books, but every time this book drops, it is absolute must-read material. So definitely give that a big recommendation. And then lastly, from our good friends over at Boom Studios, we were talking about Boom earlier, House of Slaughter number 22. So this is the spin-off book from Something is Killing the Children. Tate Brombell and Antonio Fusio is doing the creative duties on this. And this is The Butcher's War Part 2. So what this book does, much in the same vein of Tales of the Empire.
Right.
They take certain characters from the Slaughterverse, as it's known, and gives them about a 5-issue run.
Okay.
And they let different creators come in and run wild with them.
Right.
So in the story of Jace Boucher, they have let Brombell and Fuzo do a couple arcs.
Mm-hmm.
This is now the payoff. This has been alluded to that this will be the last run of the Butcher. And is now getting very personal about what happens here, because with both houses of hunters now looking to take out Jace Boucher, the attack is getting personal. And it's definitely an emotional issue if you've been reading his story in this run. This previous arc too, especially. Like, that's where you're going to get a lot more payoff.
Right.
It's a great ending. I really dug it, and just where they're going to, like, it's going to be absolutely insanity when they wrap this up. Because especially too, being if they're titling it's the last one, I don't think he makes it out alive.
Probably not.
But he's definitely going to be taking a lot of people with him. So much good stuff at the comic shops this week. If you want even more recommendations, nerdinitiative.com. Over 20 reviews currently on the site. It's insane.
Sheesh.
Yep. But hey, we like to do New Comic Book Day like nobody else. So definitely remember to go out and support your LCS wherever you're at, because it's New Comic Book Day, and that's the rules. I don't make them. I just follow them. But I will make that one too. So that being said, anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week in entertainment. So for the one and only Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.